Civ 7 has really changed things up. Leaders and civs are completely different things, and that has not only been exciting, but it has added such a new level of strategy that many of us would have never thought about. But there are a few leaders that we think could get added that are from the Antiquity age in specific. Hey guys, I'm Rob, this is Civ House, and we're going to be taking a look at those 5 leaders and which ones we think should be getting added next. But before we dive in too deep, I'm going to ask that you like and subscribe so that you don't miss any other Civilization 7 content that Connor and I are working on. Also, make sure to let me know in the comments section below if there are any leaders that you really want to see, specifically from Antiquity, that can get added to the game. As we jump in here, I did want to let you guys know that the reason why we're doing Antiquity age leaders in specific is that while these leaders are not confined to one age, there are some pretty big people that we think were either missed or definitely need to be next on the list, and they're just from this era, and we thought it would make a little bit more sense to maybe split things up. If you guys want to see a full-on top 5, we are more than happy to make that as well, but I wanted to make sure that we got that out of the way before we dove too deep. All right, we're going to start here at number 5, and that's going to be Cleopatra. You know, a leader that we've had so many different times in Civilization, and one that is kind of being missed. While we have had Hatshepsut, and she does a great job, Cleopatra is just a very different sort of leader. We could see her being diplomatic and cultural, and having that ability for her to lead different types of civilizations throughout history would be awesome. We obviously know about her different affiliations, we'll call them, with the Romans during this time period. She comes from, the Ptolemaic, pharaohs of past. And if you don't know, those are descendants from Ptolemy, a guy who was, out there fighting with Alexander the Great. And as she becomes, one of the last true pharaohs of Egypt before Rome kind of comes in and really takes over Egypt, she is weaving her way through and playing the game in such an interesting way. I would almost compare her to a Machiavelli in the way that she played people against each other, the way she would, use herself to, again, interact, I guess is the best way to put it, with people like Caesar, like Mark Antony, right? And the way that she allowed for Egypt to still be its own power. Along with this, she was really known for building things up, the culture, right? Not only the culture of Egypt, but because technically she was at least a little bit Greek still at this time period, although it had been many generations of Ptolemy pharaohs, she was one to build up different religious structures throughout the different parts of the Egyptian empire, including over in Israel, I believe, and Egypt, obviously more specifically, but would do it for other religions than just the Egyptian, I guess we'll call it, the gods, just the Egyptian gods. She did it for Greek gods as well, and it really allowed her to be a cultural, I guess, leader of her own right. So we're putting Cleopatra there at number 5. Coming in at number 4 is maybe somebody who you've not really heard of, but Dharmasetu was the leader of, now I'm going to probably pronounce this incorrectly, but it's the Srivijaya Empire, which was down, closer towards the Philippines. And this empire was known for being one of the major trade hubs in this area. They traded with, major empires over in India, and a little bit of China as well, and all over the different, Philippine islands. And this guy was the big expansionist, right? So he was the one who was really able to come in and become, I guess, their king, I believe is what he was, and was able to expand this empire significantly. He was able to successfully incorporate the Pan, which were a different group of people from that area as well, and really started to solidify this empire as one of the major ones in the area. Unfortunately, it wouldn't end up really surviving all the way through, but having a new economic and expansionist empire, one that's maybe a little less like some of the ones that we already have in the game, I think would be really nice personally, just because it's not that I don't love them, but like Isabella is one of them, and Pakakuti as well. And they're both so tied to the land, whereas I think Dharmasetu would be a leader that would instead kind of be willing to just push things out, maybe give an ability that has more to do with island hopping or, going through the water in a very different way than Isabella does. And one that I think would make him a really fun leader to play. Like, you could even technically, I almost gave him the militaristic one, but he was really expansionist. He did, push this kingdom, this empire forward. And it's why I would love to see somebody from that area, another person, but one from Antiquity, one from, back in the day. And I think this would be a really great addition. The next one is going to be Isidore of Miletus. Yeah, Miletus. He would be a scientific and a cultural leader, and he's very interesting as he is a Byzantine Greek who actually helped to make the Hagia Sophia, and he was actually very important as well in terms of completing Archimedes' work. Somebody who, was a very prominent ancient scientist, and somebody who I think, a lot of people probably have a good idea about. But Isidore of Miletus was somebody when I was really trying to look up who would be a great scientific person who could also do a little bit of culture, right? Being a scientist, he was really good at different teachings, different writings, right? And he specifically was, kind of more of like an architect where the cultural side could come in. And he would be somebody who I would say could challenge in terms of looking at wonder building. Somebody who, that's not really my style, but if you're going for a cultural victory, I could see Isidore of Miletus being somebody who could really, go hardlined into that, while also allowing the codexes to come in as well for the scientific legacy. So there are different routes that could go for Isidore, and one that I think would be very interesting. And in addition of somebody who, created something that so many of us know, right? Like a major ancient wonder, one of the ancient wonders of the world, right? And one that I think that, is somebody who we don't really know too much about, but maybe deserves a little bit more, recognition. And this would be a really fun way to add a completely out of the blue new leader to the game, and it be somebody who's not necessarily an actual leader of a nation. The next one's going to be a big one that I think people are going to really like. Coming in here at number 2 is Sun Tzu, and he's going to be militaristic and cultural. Now, the reason why is because Sun Tzu obviously was the one who wrote The Art of War, right? Was the one who really came up with a lot of military strategies, obviously, was a general in his own right, and was somebody who had a big cultural impact. I believe it was on the Han Dynasty as well. And it would be really cool to finally see him kind of make his way into the game. This is a very good way of doing it and allowing it to be not just because he's a military leader, and I don't really even know if he played much into the political scene necessarily, but he definitely wrote about it. We already have Machiavelli, and I think that, obviously he's getting in here based on a book. Why can't Sun Tzu, right? And I think that he would be a really great leader from the ancient era that could really give people a different feel, a different sense in terms of military and culture and what all he would bring. Coming in at the number 1 spot, though, is going to be somebody who, funny enough, I've already mentioned, but somebody who I think is going to not only be a lot of fun, but somebody who I think would add a very new wrinkle to the game, and that is Archimedes himself, the defender of Syracuse, the man who created so many different war machines that they were almost able to completely hold off the Roman Empire by themselves. And yes, he would be scientific and militaristic, and I think that would be such a fun combination. You could see him getting some sort of ability that, gives you an extra advantage as you work through, the ancient era towards different siege machines and stuff like that. And along with that, because of his, just because of the way that he works, the way the scientific militaristic would, I think, combine together, it would be a lot of fun. You could be super far ahead of people while maybe your economy is sucking, or maybe you're struggling a little bit, but hey, what talks bigger than, having the biggest gun, right? And that's kind of what Archimedes would do. And I feel like they could do a really good job of allowing him to connect to a couple different cultures, right? I think Greece and Rome would obviously be a pretty easy one, especially in the Antiquity age. But there are some other, I don't know, there are some others that I would really like to see as well. And it would be just really fun to see him kind of get his time to shine. Like, this is kind of what Civ 7's new leaders and civilizations were made for, right? It was made to celebrate and allow for people like Archimedes to get their time to shine in a game when in the past they never really, had that ability. So I'm really liking this list. I spent a lot of time, researching and trying to find some different people, right? Because like we've already had Cleopatra, we haven't had any of the other four, and I wanted to add in some people who I thought would, add a little bit of a difference in terms of being leaders that not only we haven't seen, but ones that would maybe change the gameplay a little bit for the leaders that we already have. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below about these leaders. But that is going to wrap it up for us on this one. So from our house to yours, thanks for watching, and I hope you'll join us for one more turn.